Welcome to the Municipality of the County of Kings, regularly scheduled Municipal Council meeting of November 6th, 2023. The hour is 6 p.m. My name is Deputy Mayor Emily Lutz. I am filling in this evening for our mayor, Mayor Peter Matart, who is on medical leave for the time being. We will begin this evening by taking a roll call. If you could please indicate on your voting apparatus whether or not you are present, that would be greatly appreciated. For those new to Chambers tonight or joining online, there is a 10-second delay from when the question is called or the motion is on the floor until we press our buttons and it shows up on the screen. So as you'll see tonight, we're missing a few faces. At this point, I look for a motion to excuse Mayor Matart, who is on medical leave. I do believe Councilors Killam and Councilor Meisner and Councilor Hurdle will be joining us, as I have not heard from Councilor Meisner, and although Councilor Hurdle did indicate he would be late. So at this point, a motion to excuse Mayor Matart, moved by Councilor Killam, who is present, seconded by Councilor Granger, who's also present. Any discussion on the motion to excuse Mayor Matart? Seeing none, all in favor or otherwise, please signify in the usual fashion. And while we wait for the results of this vote, I would take this opportunity to welcome our new Director of Engineering and Public Works, Mr. Brad Kerrigan, who is joining us in the booth to my left over here. Welcome, Mr. Kerrigan, to the municipality. Welcome to your first council meeting, and it's good to have you with us. Okay, that motion to excuse Mayor Matart has passed unanimously. Councilor Meisner has walked in the door and is joined us. At this point, I will look for an approval of the agenda before I entertain a motion. It is the wish of staff and myself that we move the closed session agenda item to under which we're discussing some business to essentially as soon as Councilor Hurdle arrives. So whenever that happens, likely after item 5, business arising from the minutes, or after item 6. So just if folks are okay with that level of flexibility, at this point, I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda. Moved by Councilor Allen, seconded by Councilor Harding. Discussion on the agenda at this point in time. Seeing none, all in favor or otherwise, please signify in the usual fashion. And I thank Council for their flexibility on this matter. Oh, also in attendance tonight, I failed to mention, from above, we have the solicitor for the municipality, Mr. Peter Rogers from McGinnis Cooper. Hello, Mr. Peter Rogers. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I hope you can hear me all right.
You're coming through loud and clear. Thank you for being with us this evening.
My pleasure.
With that, the motion to approve the agenda has carried with 8 in favor and 2 not present. With this approved agenda, I would ask if there are any items of conflict of interest for Council to disclose this evening. Any items of conflict of interest with our approved agenda? Seeing none, we will now move to item 4, approval of minutes. I'd look for 2 separate motions tonight. The first to approve the minutes of October 3rd, 2023. Do I have a mover of those minutes? Moved by Councilor Davison, seconded by Councilor Allen. Discussion on the minutes, errors or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor or otherwise, please vote now. Thank you. The motion is carried. Our second item, 4B, October 17th, 2023, special council meeting. I would look for a motion to approve that set of minutes pending any errors or omissions. Moved by Councilor Davison, seconded by Councilor Granger. Thank you. Any discussion on those motions? Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'd ask for you to vote either in favor or against at this time. And while we wait for the results of that vote, is there any business arising from either of those sets of minutes? They're both approved. Any business arising? Oh, I did vote. I meant to vote in favor, so they are approved unanimously. Any business arising? I see none. With that, we'll move to item 6, Planning Advisory Committee recommendations from October 10th, 2023. At this point, I turn the floor over to Councillor Armstrong, who will present the motions.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The Municipal Council give initial consideration to and hold a public hearing regarding entering into a development agreement to permit a dog daycare at 7311 Highway 1, PID 55151484 Coldbrook, which is substantively the same for minor differences in form, as the draft set out in Appendix D of the report dated October 10, 2023. I so move.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Allen. Any discussion on this motion? You'll see there is the report in the package outlining all aspects of this development agreement. Is there any comment or questions resulting from this motion or the report set out by staff? Okay, seeing none, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor or otherwise, please signify in the usual fashion. Thank you very much. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Council. Councillor Armstrong.
Just to let everyone know that our next public hearing will be Tuesday, December the 5th, 2023, 6 p.m. in these chambers. Thank you.
December already. At this time, we're moving to item 7, administration. Proposed response to the Blomidon Naturalists Society. I'd invite specialist, Mr. Dan Hagan, to approach the podium to give us a presentation in response to a presentation provided a few months ago regarding protected areas in Kings County. Strategic Project Specialist, go ahead.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor Lutz and members of Council. Thank you for having me here this evening to present staff's proposed response to the Blomidon Naturalist Society and their request for support on a moratorium on all development on Crown lands and the creation of a new wilderness area. For those that you don't know me or are listening at home, my name is Dan Hagan and I'm the Strategic Project Specialist for the municipality. And with respect to full disclosure, I must advise that I am a paid member of the Blomidon Naturalist Society. However, I'm not part of any governance board or similar and have no active role with the organization. And at the end of the presentation, oops, sorry. Oh, are we doing this again? Okay. At the end of this presentation, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Second slide. The intent of this presentation is to provide sufficient background information for Council to make an informed decision on staff's review of the Blomidon Naturalist Society proposal to create a new wilderness area in the county and the interrelated factors related to that proposal. On September 19th, 2023, the Blomidon Naturalist Society made a presentation to Committee of the Whole regarding their proposal for a new wilderness area in southwestern Kings County. As part of their presentation, they requested Council's support for this venture. The BNS proposal included Crown lands in southwestern Kings County for a new wilderness area and also required a moratorium on all development on said lands, including for forestry, road building, and wind farm development. On this slide, you can see what BNS has identified as Crown lands of interest, which effectively is most of the Crown lands in this area. By way of background information to Council, the BNS proposal referenced the provincial government's Environmental Goals and Climate Change Reduction Act of 2021. Specifically, their request was related to Section 10 of the Act, Land Protection Goals. The government's goals in Section 10 of the Act include to conserve 20% of the land of the province by 2030 and to release a collaborative protective areas strategy, which is expected by December 31st, 2023. Also in the Environmental Goals and Climate Change Reduction Act of 2021, staff notes that the province has identified other goals for greenhouse gas emission reduction targets and climate change responses. In Section 6 of the Act, GHG emissions reduction targets, the province has goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by at least 53% below 2005 levels by 2030 and to be net zero by 2050. In Section 7, climate change response and GHGs, the province also identifies that it has a goal of having 80% of electricity generation in the province be provided by renewable resources. Related to the previous slide, the province issued a 2030 Clean Power Plan in October 2023. The goals of the province include adding more than 1,000 megawatts of onshore wind generation and 300 megawatts more solar power. To do this, it would require increasing wind generation from 20% to 50% plus of electricity in the province. Also, wind was identified as the lowest cost electricity option available to Nova Scotians. The 2030 Clean Power Plan identified that in fall 2023, they will launch the Green Choice program for the next 350 megawatts of wind projects, with additional procurement in 2025 and 2027. Based on the most recent information on the Green Choice program website, the anticipated issuance date for the RFP for proponents is December 1st, 2023, following assumed UARB approval. I note that the goals of the Clean Power Plan, in this case, align very closely with the municipality's strategic plan for 2021 to 2024, and specifically to our commitment to environmental stewardship. I want to talk for a few minutes here to discuss the municipality's history regarding the siting of wind turbines. Land use planning efforts regarding wind turbines have a history going back of more than a decade. In July 2012, the municipality introduced a moratorium on the location of wind turbine projects in the municipality. Subsequently, between 2012 and 2020, and at the urging of the province and local citizenry, the municipality undertook significant consultation projects that included the consideration of acceptable areas for as-of-right siting of wind power projects. Ultimately, in March 2020, the municipality's new municipal planning strategy and land use bylaws were adopted, which included as-of-right siting requirements for large-scale wind turbines. As part of the adopted municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw in 2020, as-of-right siting of large-scale wind turbine projects were restricted to a discrete area in southwestern Kings County that met with the following restrictions: that they be on Crown lands, that they be 3,000 meters from any dwelling, and that they be 3,000 meters from the existing Cloud Lake Wilderness area to the west. The map on this slide identifies the large-scale wind turbine overlay that was approved with the adoption of the new MPS and LUB. This large-scale wind turbine overlay area is understood to have the following qualifications for wind turbine electricity generation. It has desirable topographic contours, elevations and contours, I guess, suitable proximity to electrical transmission lines, suitable high wind areas, and suitable setbacks from existing built structures. We note that to date that the municipality has not installed meteorological masts in the overlay area, and the municipality continues to work with the the Department of National Defense on radar mitigation for the projects in this area. In this slide, staff is overlaying the municipality's large-scale wind turbine overlay with the new wilderness area proposed by BNS as part of their proposal to council. As you can see, the entire as-of-right overlay for large-scale wind turbines is included in one of their proposed areas. Additionally, staff has noted that there may be areas included in BNS's proposal that may not be Crown lands. For example, the red outlines here do not appear to match exactly with Crown land fabric in that area. So with respect to next steps, it's staff's position that the municipality and BNS may have many shared objectives on this matter, including factors related to GHG reductions, carbon sequestration, and old growth forest protection. We believe there is a great potential here for an environmentally synergistic project between the municipality and BNS. It is staff's position that wind power generation project and the creation of a protected wilderness area in southwestern Kings County are not mutually exclusive activities. It seems reasonable that, provided consideration is given to the protection of species at risk, freshwater environments, and old forests, that both activities can occur over the same land holdings. Based on staff's review of the BNS proposal, there are no direct financial implications with respect to this request for decision. However, the municipality is on public record that these Crown lands in southwestern Kings County could contribute significantly to greenhouse gas emission reductions in the province and contribute to our green electrical grid, while at the same time offering the municipality an alternative new revenue stream to support its residents. With respect to the strategic plan alignment, both BNS's proposal and the idea why the alarm just went off on my phone. I apologize. With respect to strategic plan alignment, both BNS's proposal and the municipality's goal of renewable energy production in the county are interpreted to align with the environmental stewardship key strategic priority, specifically for wind power projects and environmental advocacy. At this time, and with respect to a recommendation to council regarding potential support to BNS for their proposal, staff recommends deferring a letter of support until such a time as BNS has provided written support of the inclusion of wind power generation projects within the geographic area. A full written recommendation to council is presented on the slide, and I will refer back to it at the end of the presentation. In regards to alternatives to this RFD, other alternatives to staff's recommendation include, but are not limited to, provide endorsement of BNS's proposal as provided by the Society, or to decline providing a letter of endorsement. With respect to implementation, staff believes that 3 steps would be required for this proposal to proceed. The first step would include BNS providing the municipality a revised proposal which would include their support of large-scale wind turbine as-of-right siting in southwestern Kings County. The second step would involve municipal staff to confirm some details of BNS's proposal. And finally, the third step would involve the municipality providing a letter of support for the proposed new wilderness area. In relation to engagement, staff notes that significant public engagement occurred between 2012 and 2020 on the large-scale wind turbine as-of-right siting, which resulted in the current large-scale wind turbine overlay as approved in the 2020 MPS and LUB. And finally, and further to the above, staff's recommendation to Municipal Council is as follows. That Municipal Council defer providing a letter of support to the Blomidon Naturalist Society's request to the province of Nova Scotia for a moratorium on development on Crown lands and in southwestern Kings County and the creation of a new wilderness area until such a time as BNS has provided written support of the inclusion of wind power generation projects within this geographic area. At this time, I would like to thank Deputy Mayor Lutz and Council for your time today, and I'd be happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan. Any questions from around the horseshoe? I will begin with Councillor Granger. Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thanks for your presentation. The proposed wilderness area and wind turbine overlay proposal also includes other counties, Annapolis County and Lunenburg County. So how will that work? I mean, if we decide to go forward and they say no, how will that work? Getting all of us to sit at the same table kind of thing.
Right. Through the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Granger, you are correct that it does appear to encompass parts of Annapolis County as well as Lunenburg County there. To be honest, I'm not sure of the intricacies of how that would work going forward, but I'm guessing, or my assumption would be that they've also approached those counties as well. And I think that that's maybe part of kind of pausing on deciding on where to go with this until we have more information and that we, have kind of a clear line of sight of where we want to go with it, because right now there's a couple of things that probably needs a little bit more information, and with consideration that there may be 3 other partners involved, that maybe we need to talk a bit more about it.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, for your question. Councillor Harding.
I'm not, as you know, I'm not crazy about this being in District 5. A lot of industry goes on out there. There's a lot of businesses that cut wood off of Crown land. There's Hutchison's Maple Syrup that leases a lot of land to do their business on. So I'm not prepared to back this at all. There's other lands in Nova Scotia that they could, go find, do their thing. But what I'm hearing from my constituency, 3/4 of them out over the mountain, out towards Dalhousie, want nothing to do with this. So that's where I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And just a brief reminder to Council that if opinion and debate should be reserved for after the motion's been received and seconded, but you're all right, Councillor. Councillor Allen, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just have one question. When the Blomidon Naturalist Society is requesting no road building, that would include fire roads too, would it?
ahead.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Allen. Yeah, I would imagine that that would preclude more fire roads, like just by the nature of, if it's a road, but I'm not necessarily an expert on fire roads in this case, but
Sure.
it does sound like they kind of want nothing happening in these areas.
Zero construction, I guess.
Yeah, I believe their, if I can find their wording here, it included a bunch of different things. I only had 3 on the list there, but forestry, road building, mining, wind farm development, and other development activities within the area. So that's,
Yes.
covering a lot.
My concern with climate change, when these forest fires break out in those areas, it's lack of access to fight them.
Right.
Is my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Further questions of staff? Councillor Granger.
Thank you. Thanks again. I just wanted to ask, does BNS have any idea of how many hectares or acres that we're talking about here?
Sorry, through the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Granger. I don't believe in any of the literature they provided as of right now that they've identified how many hectares. Part of kind of what our suggestion there is like the 3 caveats that we would like for council to consider. The second one was that staff go back and take a little bit more into what we're talking about here. Part of that would, in my view, would be a kind of a GIS spatial analysis of what they're actually talking about, and to come up with some of those numbers so we all have a better idea of what actually is being put forward here.
Right. And if I may,
Absolutely.
I have another question. Would they be open to succession? So doing so many hectares and acres in one year and then another year doing so many, is that something that they might be open to?
Councillor Granger, through the Mayor, Deputy Mayor, they haven't really said in the documentation, so I think that would be something we would need to clarify with them. The gist of what I'm getting from their kind of proposition here is that they're really worried about the old growth forest and the species at risk in these areas. So I think they're probably their top priority is just to get like non-development happening anywhere in that area. But like any, I'm sure that there's some wiggle room there if we needed to do that. But I think a lot of it also hinges on what the government's coming out with that collaborative process that's supposed to be, in our hands in the next month and a half. So, and they could be trying to influence what that ultimately is too with this proposal. But as even Councillor Harding mentioned, that there's a few more people that have maybe something to say about this, that it maybe isn't something that can happen very quickly. I think there's a lot more discussion that has to happen, in my view.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Killam.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Is there any movement at all on offshore wind that you know of?
Through the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Killam. The only thing I know about offshore stuff is kind of some of the things I'm hearing through the news, mostly through kind of CBC News Atlantic kind of stuff. And it seems like the government is kind of looking at, I believe, 2 different areas, but I shouldn't really speak because I'm not an expert on that. But it does sound like there's going to be other issues with that, with offshore wind, with the fisheries and that sort of thing too. So I think we're just, I think, at the early stage of what's happening onshore and offshore at this point, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next year for certain.
Thank you. I'd just like to say that I kind of agree with Councillor Allen with respect to it's a bit counterproductive if we cannot get access to those areas with the threat of wildfires that we will see in the future. That's kind of rings a bell for me. And also Councillor Harding's area, I went through I was on council when we went through the moratorium on wind farms back in 2012, and believe me, it was a very, very hot issue, and there was many meetings and a lot of opposition that swelled up from the general public at that time. And I just send out a little note of, not warning, but that I think we could end up with an onslaught of a repeat of 2012 on this forward through. Just wanted to point that out. It was definitely controversial.
Right. And I think too, one of the big factors here is we're kind of in what they're proposing is the very early steps of something like this, and a lot of different studies would have to happen, and not all of which I have any understanding of necessarily. But the environmental assessment process, I think, would do a lot to, what we need to do for this area, and which may include things like roads and that sort of thing too. So I'm sure we're several steps, to get to that point. But fire and life safety is going to be pretty important going forward for us, and I assume that will be part of it.
There was a lot of good information, factual information brought forth during that session back in 2012 that's probably available to review, and may have a look at it.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor. I have no further lights. Do I have a mover of the motion on the floor? Moved by Councillor Granger, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Debate, opinion, comment on the motion at hand. It's been read kindly by Mr. Hagan, so I won't bore you with repeating it. It's on the screen in front of you. I see no further lights. All in favor or otherwise, please signify in the usual fashion. We have 6 in favor, 1 against, and I did vote. Councillor Killam, how do you vote? Apologies.
So I'm not prepared to vote on it right now.
All right, so an abstention is a negative.
That's a no, then.
That's a no.
Okay, I'll remember that.
6 in favor, 2 against. We will see what the future holds for this agenda item, and look forward to hearing more from Mr. Hagan and the Blomidon Naturalist Society on how we may partner going forward. Thank you for your presentation. We're at item 8 this evening. I have Director Greg Barr with us from Finance, and he's here to present item 8A, Temporary Signing Officer Arrangements. Mr. Barr, please take it away.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm filling in for our Manager of Revenue, Scott McKay, this evening, and I'll be taking you through one of 2 presentations. This one relates to the temporary signing officer arrangements. So as you're aware, of course, Mayor Mattart is expected to be away from the office for an undetermined period of time. And he is one of only 2 elected officials that have signing officers' rights with the municipality. So we're looking for a new and temporary signing officer for banking purposes. So the current arrangement, excuse me, is that all banking services activities are authorized by one of either the mayor or deputy mayor, or any one of the 3 of the CAO, the director of finance, or the manager of revenue. So with the need for having someone step in during the mayor's absence, we sent out a call to council, you recall, by email, to which Councillor Hurdle was one that responded with his willingness to assist with this. As it states in the slide, he lives in close proximity to the municipality. It makes for a very convenient arrangement for our financial operations to have someone that would be in close and ready if needed. So our financial institution is drawing up the documentation now to amend those agreements to include allowance for Councillor Hurdle, and we're bringing it to council for their approval, their official approval. So it should be noted that the signing officer authority is limited really to only banking arrangements, not for any other purposes within the municipality. So this next slide kind of identifies what the arrangements would be pending the mayor's return. So it would be one of either the deputy mayor or Councillor Hurdle. I think for the normal day-to-day type things, we would still rely on the deputy mayor for a lot of the signatures, but then this would at least provide another elected official that would be able to step in and then continue with any one of the 3 of the CAO, the director of finance, or the manager of revenue. So with that, the recommendation that's in front of you is that the municipal council approve the addition of Joe Hurdle, councillor, as a temporary signing officer for banking purposes in the absence of Mayor Mattart.
At this point, we'll look for questions, of which I have one, if council will permit. Could you go back just one slide? I noticed that it just has the deputy mayor and Councillor Hurdle. Does Mayor Mattart retain signing authority in during this time? Okay.
Yeah, he would, and it would, as soon as his return, we would cancel Councillor Hurdle's signing authority and revert just to yourself and the mayor.
Okay, just making sure. Thank you. Questions of staff. Councillor Armstrong, go ahead.
There are, I realize that you said that this was specifically for banking purposes, but in the absence of the mayor, who's looking after signing things such as development agreements and contracts and stuff like that?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Armstrong, those activities would refer over to the Deputy Mayor.
Okay. Thank you.
And for further information, I have made it a point to be in here every Wednesday, and lately other days as well. So they haven't needed anyone else at this time. So I'm making a point to be here lots. Councillor Harding.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Question, Deputy CAO, how come he's not on that list?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Harding. So those are the positions that we've identified by policy and that we have from an authorization perspective for banking purposes. So
okay.
The Deputy CEO just isn't one that's been identified.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harding. Any further questions of Mr. Barr this morning, this evening? The outside is, very clearly it is evening as it's pitch black at 6:30. Any further questions for Mr. Barr? Seeing none, the motion reads that Municipal Council approve the addition of Joel Hurdle, Councillor, as a temporary signing officer for banking purposes in the absence of Mayor Matart. Do I have a mover of that motion? Moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Harding, or Davison, Harding. Discussion, debate. Seeing none, all in favor or otherwise, please signify in the usual fashion. Mr. Barr is not leaving us. We have one further report to come from Finance this evening. The update of delay of tax billing 2023. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Council. Mr. Barr, you have the floor.
Great. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So the second presentation has to do with the interest rate and tax due date policy. So, of course, as you're aware, the municipality was a victim of a cybersecurity incident back in July. And as a result, our financial system was taken offline. And until about a week and a half ago, we had zero access to it. And subsequently, of course, we were unable to process any financial transactions whatsoever. So as we've outlined on this chart here, from July 10th, the first date of the attack, to October 25th, no access to financial systems. On October 26th, our provider was able to restore access, and we began doing a comprehensive amount of testing on it to ensure both the data integrity of the data that was there at the time of the attack and the functionality of the system. And separate from this, I'm able to happily report that everything, that testing went very well. A number of the modules worked very well, the data was intact, and we were very pleased with the data that we were given and the system we were given. So as of November 1st, we moved over into completing live transactions and commencing that. So as you can imagine, there's a significant amount of volume of transactions that have built up over the 3.5 months. So now, apart from obviously other transactions that are happening within our systems, whether it be payroll, accounts payable, those types of things, the process of logging all of these transactions that have happened in the last 3.5 months starting. So that includes things such as counter transactions, payments that are made at the front counter, bank payments, e-transfers, wire transfers, direct deposits. All of those have to be processed in chronological order. And to date, there's several thousands of those transactions that have to be inputted by staff. Additionally, there's a number of maintenance type related things, which includes changes to property ownership, mailing addresses, assessment appeals, area rate changes, and any other assessment roll adjustments that have to be made. And there's approximately about 2,000 of those that staff are dealing with right now. So when we've kind of inventoried all of that, and we've kind of Gantt charted how we want to tackle the backlog, we're anticipating it to take about 4 to 5 weeks for all of that information to be completed and updated. Following that, we would undertake our final tax bill calculations and then submit it to our printing partner for delivery to property owners. So we've consulted with our partners to be able to identify what the timelines that potentially we could achieve and then what they could achieve from that. And so obviously now that we're dealing with that backlog and working with the printers, we've identified the following timeline that would be achievable for our municipality. So we're looking at really early December, possibly late November, We would want to send out some communication to the community in terms of what the key dates would be available for tax bills, to give them a heads up as much as we can about when they can expect their tax bills. The target right now would be that tax bills would arrive in mailboxes for property owners in and about mid-January. We're kind of targeting January 15th as being the date. We think that's achievable, and with our printer closing down over the Christmas holiday time frame, it sets up well for us being able to really initiate the delivery of that tax bill file to them. On a side note, we've already ran our manager of revenue has already run some mock tax bill scenarios, communicated with the printer. The information we're getting back is spot on. We're very pleased with it. So apart from running into any kind of major issues during the dealing of the backlog, the really only variable is just how long it will take our staff to be able to deal with that backlog. So we think this provides enough of a buffer with the Christmas holidays that we would issue the bills in mid-January. We'd want to establish a due date of February 29th, which would be about 2 weeks more than normal. Usually it's about 30 days that we would have from the issuance of the bills to the due date. With this, with the Christmas season and with the delays that we've had, it gives a little more of a buffer for residents. So with all that, there's a need for us to amend policy FIN 05013. That policy specifically outlines the dates of September 1st to December 30th. So stay on side with the policy. We're looking for an amendment that makes specific reference to the 23-24 tax year and the anomaly of this cyber attack and those issuance and due date for the final tax bill for this fiscal. So with that, the recommendation that we have in front of you relates to the policy and just states that the Municipal Council provides 7 days notice per Section 48(1) Municipal Government Act to adopt amendments to policy FIN 05-013, interest rate and tax due date policy.
Thank you, Mr. Barr. Any questions from council this evening? I don't see any. Mr. Barr's been kind enough to read the recommendation. Do I have a mover of the proposed motion? Moved by Councillor Meisner, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor or otherwise, please signify now. And once again, as it cannot be repeated enough, huge thanks to the finance team and all others, IT included, and others who've been instrumental in getting us back online, which has been a momentous task. So your work is always appreciated, but particularly so these last several months. Thank you. We have a motion carried. 9 in favor. Councillor Hurdle has joined us. At this point, as indicated during the approval of the agenda, we will move into a closed session. So at this point, I have to ask some members of our public to briefly vacate. Please don't leave entirely, but if I could ask you to just sort of wait in the lobby area. If we can get you anything, let us know. And we will be moving into closed session to chat with our lawyer briefly. The lights should turn on back there so you're not in the dark. Okay. So we're sending her into the abyss. Could I have a motion to move in camera? Moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Meisner. All in favor, please signify now. Councillor Hurdle, for your information, our municipal solicitor, Mr. Peter Rogers, has joined this meeting, and is virtual, so he is coming from above at this point. The motion to move in camera has carried unanimously, and I will wait for the thumbs up from Yanni till we know we are offline. Thank you, Yanni. We are back in open session for the November 6th meeting of Municipal Council. Welcome back, and apologies to our audience who we left in the, not the literal dark, but the dark for a period of time, so appreciate your patience with us this evening. At this point in time, we're going to hear from staff who are going to give a brief presentation on recreational vehicles in the municipality of Kings.
Good evening, Council and members of the public that are either here in person or listening online. Tonight, staff thought it might be beneficial to briefly go over recreational vehicles from a municipal perspective. So tonight, we really wanted to take an opportunity to let the public know just exactly where the municipality stands when it regards to recreational vehicles and our enforcement of any complaints that might come into the office related to people choosing to use that as an alternative housing form. So just as a way of background, I personally felt that maybe there was a little bit of confusion out in the public, and I just wanted to let the public know that there is not any recreational vehicle or RV bylaw within the municipality of the County of Kings. It's actually a little more complicated than that. RVs are vehicles that are not considered a dwelling under our planning documents, our land use bylaw. RVs do not meet the building code requirements of a dwelling, so they're not constructed to that standard. And of interest, RVs are actually regulated and licensed by the Motor Vehicle Act. So there's another body completely that looks after these RVs, and for the most part, most of them are considered trailers under that act. So when the municipality receives a complaint that an RV is being, or maybe I'll rephrase, if the municipality receives a complaint that involves an RV, at that point, staff are going to initiate an investigation. And typically, it's a parallel investigation within our department that will pull in two different divisions. So you've got the land use bylaw, and you've got the dangerous and unsightly component. So what happens when we get a complaint that something about the property and an RV has gotten on the radar of the complainant? So from a land use bylaw perspective, we're going to investigate where is this property in question, what's the zoning of it, what are the permitted uses, how is the lot serviced, and how is the RV serviced as well, which can be a different answer. We also start to look at how is the structure being used on a day-to-day perspective. Is it something that is seasonally used? So as a cottage alternative, which within the land use bylaw, we actually did permit in our new planning documents of 2020. We now allow RVs to be seen as an alternative to a cottage in 4 of our zones. So those zones would be the S1, so the Lakeshore Residential Zone, the S2, the Lakeshore Limited Development Zone. So those two are obviously around the lakes on our South Mountain. And the other 2 zones are our Tidal Shoreland Zone, our T1, and our Tidal Commercial Zone, T2. And those are found along the Bay of Fundy and the Midas Basin. So other than that, it's not something that the planning documents have contemplated as an alternative to a seasonal housing option. So the other route of investigation when
Sorry, Trish, you just missed another point on that, that slide on temporary construction use.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Deputy. So the second part of that investigation would be another thing that we do permit is if there's renovations going on or if there is a brand new construction of a dwelling, it's not uncommon for people to use accessory structures, RVs, to help them through that construction period. So the land use bylaw actually comes right out and says, as long as it's accessory to a project that we're aware of that has a permit, we're not going to make issue of an RV being lived in. It's considered acceptable, no permits are required, provided that the work that you're doing also has the appropriate permits, but completely normal and completely acceptable from our perspective. Dangerous or unsightly. So the MGA is actually the other component of how do we take a look at, is there any merit to the complaint? Just because a complaint comes in does not mean that it has any kind of valid outcome from a municipal perspective. So we'll also take a look at it from the administrator of the MGA's perspective. Have they done any alterations to the vehicle, the RV? Is there anything obvious from an external perspective that we can say, we now have a concern for the safety of anybody staying in here? Because there has been alterations, so whether that's a wood stove and a pipe coming out the side, clearly there's an alteration, and that's when the administrator can bring in either a building official or a fire official to get that expertise. Is there a concern here? And we would pursue it at that point through those avenues. My final point, I guess, on dangerous and unsightly would be that the MGA actually has mandated that all property owners are required to maintain their property so not to create a situation that is dangerous or unsightly. So that's where we're potentially bringing the RV if it's considered dangerous due to its modifications. Again, I wanted to stress that every complaint, every investigation is assessed individually. One thing I've learned in my years here is that no situation repeats itself. Every property is different, every situation is different. So we really also need to look at how is it that this complaint came to be. Our observation has been that it's typically not the fact that the RV is on a site that's been the issue. It's been some other component. So is it the noise from the generator because it doesn't have power? Is it an encroachment issue? Is it creating an unsightly condition from the perspective of the complainant? Or maybe it's the activities of the tenants that have raised the alarm and they see us as a way of trying to find some resolution there. So building on that, staff have always used the approach that really our job here is to educate and help the public. Is there a way that we can come to a happy medium if there is a way to get there? We're not out looking for RVs, so it's a complaint-based business. And again, RVs really make up a minimal number of the actual complaints that we see on an annual basis as being an issue for us to investigate. So all that to be said is what I've learned is that what we could do better as a municipality, as staff, is that we could do a better job at educating and getting the word out there through multiple means of how can we tell the story of what is it that we are doing that is changing the housing crisis in Kings County. And that's everything from accessory dwelling units that are now permitted in Kings County to applying for the Housing Accelerator Fund. You know, what is it that we're doing? Next week, PAC is considering changes to both our mixed-use residential R3 zone and our R4 zone to change the minimums of the number of units within a structure. Again, more units typically equate to more affordability for our developers. So we need to get the word out there that we are doing a great job and we are doing things that are within our control to help with affordability, availability of housing units. So with that, I did have a proposed motion for council to consider. I'll leave that for the deputy.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jabrick. Questions? We have no motions on the floor, so at this point we'll be sticking to questions of clarification for staff. Councillor Killam, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Trish. Has there been any applications come forward yet regarding tiny homes? And would that be permitted in the municipality at this time? It's popping up in other areas, and wondering if there's opportunities there.
Okay, so tiny homes are not something that really need to be addressed separately. So tiny home from a land use bylaw is just a small home. So whether that's building as an accessory dwelling unit in your backyard or whether that is your main home on your property, it's a home. Tiny homes typically, that's a term that's used from the building code perspective. If you meet certain conditions under the code, you can be exempt from certain code requirements. Stairs might be a good example. A lot of them have lofts and they don't have stairs. So it's not something we prohibit. It's not something we actively list as a permitted use because it's a house. It's a dwelling. It's already permitted.
With respect to the health and safety and dangerous premises, how much liability issues are involved in dealing with these things? If indeed something might happen, someone's injured or death, and we are not enforcing some of those regulations, is that an issue for the municipality?
Sorry, are we back to the RVs? Is that?
I guess I bounced there a little
bit.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just wondering about the municipality's liability with respect to if indeed we don't, if there's issues with respect to fire and safety and we don't address them from a complaint basis, which I guess we do, and we allow these things to happen, are we liable if there's death or injury?
I'm not entirely sure the question there, but
I'm a little muddied on that, sorry.
I see Terry's standing up too.
Yeah, so any time that we are aware of a life safety issue, we are going to address that. The water and sewer perspective are a bit outside the scope of our jurisdiction, only in that a dwelling, again, an RV is not a dwelling, they are required to have adequate servicing. So it does get a little more complicated because typically these are getting connected into either a village sewer, so the village utility might be a part of this discussion, and they would have to do their own enforcement if that's an issue. On-site septic. So again, every situation is a bit different, so it would really depend. But on-site or septic is not part of what we would look at under life safety.
Okay, thank you. Just a side note, I saw just recently on the news that a millionaire had put up monies to build, I don't know, 20 or 30 units in New Brunswick. He's developed a small community there for affordable housing for people, and it was just kind of interesting to see that kind of a step up from the private sector, put it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hurdle, do you have questions?
Yes, thank you. Through you, has there been, disregarding dangerous and unsightly, has there been investigations initiated under the land use bylaw strictly, brought forward as complaints of RVs being used on personal private property?
I can't speak to that off the top. Likely there would be. We don't permit, the land use bylaw does not list an RV as a permitted use within our growth centers, for example. So if one was in an R1 zone, absolutely, potentially, we've already enforced against somebody living, which is different than parking or periodically using, but if somebody was living in an RV in a zone that didn't permit it, yes.
And what's the mechanism that allows the investigation to take place there?
The mechanism being the land use bylaw in your example.
And looking at the authority granted, where does that come from?
The authority granted to
The
the municipality,
yes.
or to investigate, you mean?
Yes.
So the land use bylaw requires that a development officer be appointed by municipal council, and the development officer is the authority to investigate, to enter the property, to investigate, both of those.
And so they would enter the property, and what happens then?
Sorry, what happens when
Say
they enter?
a complaint's issued, an inspector enters a property. What is the next steps as they approach the property? Give me a hypothetical.
Again, every situation is going to be different, but we're going to, if we flip back to a couple slides ago in my presentation, it depends on, what's the zoning, what's the property, where's the, in this case, the RV located that is causing the complaint, what initiated this, and what's the root of the issue besides the fact that it's an RV. And then we walk through, is it got power? Is there alterations to the structure? So it's going to depend on what it is that we see.
And could the investigation, disregarding on dangerous and unsightly, could that investigation then cause somebody to have to forcibly relocate or discontinue their use of their RV as a dwelling?
Again, it's a violation under the land use bylaw, the building code, and the Fire Safety Act to be living in an RV. However, we do our best to ensure that we are dealing with this in a compassionate way, that's a reasonable way to ensure that during this housing crisis that we have compassion.
And even if the section of the land use bylaw were amended or struck through that may cause an issue with the zoning of the location of that said RV in this hypothetical, there is also the fire and life safety that prevents, or that may also cause issue that is outside of our municipal authority, correct?
That's right. So there's multiple layers. In theory, we could make an amendment to the land use bylaw to somehow come up with a solution. That's only part of the problem. The other issue is these are not homes. They do not meet code. They are unsafe for a year-round occupancy. They were not designed for that.
So even if we struck that portion, council is still beholden to provincial guidelines and federal fire regulation.
That's right. Those are the regulations that both those acts require us to enforce.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I have no further lights. We have a proposed motion from staff. Is anyone willing to move the motion on the floor? Okay, we have Councillor Armstrong and Councillor Killam who've moved and seconded the motion, which reads, the Municipal Council instructs staff to prepare and release up-to-date information on the municipality's response to the housing crisis. Is there any discussion on this motion as presented? I see none. At this time, I'll call the question. All in favor or otherwise, please signify in the usual fashion. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Council. Would folks like to continue or take a quick break? Seeing one call for a break. Is that okay with folks? A brief recess? Okay. We'll come back in 10 minutes at 8:53, if possible. Thank you very much.
If I may, Deputy Mayor, Peter Rogers speaking virtually. I propose to excuse myself as I'm anticipating this subject has reached a conclusion. Is that correct?
I think you're safe to say that. We really appreciate your help, your assistance, and your presence this evening.
Thank you very much.
Have a great
Good
evening.
evening.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be back in 10. Thank you. Thanks everyone for allowing us that brief break. We are back to the November 6th council meeting on Monday, November 6th. We are on item 9, boarding committee reports. We do have one written report submitted by Dan Stovall from the Regional Emergency Management Advisory Committee. I do encourage everyone to take a look at that report, as it contains a lot of really good information. I believe there is one verbal report that I'm aware of, but I will look to others if there's further. Councillor Harding, you have a verbal report for King's Regional Rehab.
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor. Change in the board as of October 4th, 2023 for the King's Regional Rehabilitation Centre. Murray Salzman has completed his term as chair. Phil Warren has been declared new chair. Adrian Doherty is vice chair, and myself, Tim Harding, is treasurer. So that is my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I understand that Mr. Salzman was there for quite an extended period of time, so we extend our thanks to him for the very long tenure with which he served in that volunteer role. I had the pleasure of serving alongside him for a brief period of time as a councillor, and we wish him all the best in his retirement from his volunteer career, and many thanks for the years in which he contributed. So it's a very big deal. So many thanks to Mr. Salzman. Are there any further oral reports to be given this evening? I do have one, if council will permit. Last Thursday, the Annapolis Valley Trails Coalition had a meeting, and I just wanted to announce that Beth Patillo and Rick Jakes both serve on the Nova Scotia Trails board, the NS Trails board, and they have done for a while. Beth has been a long-term chair of that organization, and both are also retiring from those roles. They are staying on at AVTC, so nobody panic. They will still be around our table, but are just stepping down from that provincial body. So we did appoint 2 different representatives to the Nova Scotia Trails Board. The second thing I wanted to highlight is that shortly NS Trails is doing a trails impact study. So they're looking at not just if the trails have an economic impact, that's a well-studied phenomenon, the economic impact that having well-maintained trails brings to a region, but they're actually looking at both the economic as well as the physical and mental benefits of trails. So they're actually looking for volunteers to go out on the Harvest Moon Trail to hand out physical copies of surveys. There will be a QR code, there will be posters, there will be a campaign. So if you are interested, if you have a location for the posters, let me know. I can hook you up with Beth and Rick. It's about a 10-minute survey, and they're really looking to use that data to petition potentially us and the province and other levels of government to see trails as a significant investment, which we already are great supporters of, so lucky us. And that's it for the AVTC report. Any further reports to come before the meeting? Looking for a motion to receive the reports. Moved by Councillor Meisner, seconded by Councillor Granger. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor or otherwise, please signify in the usual fashion. Thank you, Council. The motion carries unanimously. Item 10, correspondence. We have a couple pieces of correspondence with us. A thank you from the Hants County Exhibition. Letter from several municipalities regarding rural cell phone coverage. I believe the letter is dated prior to a recent funding announcement that I encourage everyone to listen to. This has been something that's come across our table more than once regarding cell service, particularly in Councillor Harding's district. So I believe there's been new investments in that, but you'll note that there's a well-done letter in here from Clarks Harbour, Barrington, Shelburne, Lockport, and Shelburne. We also have the response from Minister John Lohr regarding the letter sent by Mayor Christine Blair in Colchester, and a thank you / accountability report from former councillor and co-chair of the Helping Hands Orchard Valley organization regarding a summer camp that was provided to Ukrainian families and children. And that's it. So could I have a motion to receive the correspondence? Moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Meisler. Discussion? All in favor, please signify now. Or otherwise, or contrary minded too. Thank you very much. The motion carries unanimously. Is there any other business to come before the meeting this evening? I would just say that I appreciate everyone who tuned in on our unregular day on this Monday that allows us to head to the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities Conference tomorrow night and be there for the opening of the event. Appreciate everyone's patience with the change in schedule. It does happen usually every year. Seeing no other business, and I don't believe we have any comments from the public, I'd look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Meisner, seconded by Councillor Killam. All in favor or otherwise, please signify in the usual fashion. As always, greatly appreciate your input tonight, Council. And staff, thank you so much for the work you put in making these meetings a smooth experience. Appreciate you all. Have a good evening.